Good morning and welcome to the show, Focus Daily TV. Here on Focus Daily TV, we speak about biblical prophecy and how the children of God, commonly known as the Afro-Americans, the African Americans, how unfortunately we fell from grace by putting our faith in a system of fiat currency and debt and death, rather than relying on our Father which art in heaven, rather than relying on His word, His laws, and His commandments. Today we're going to go a little bit more into the definition of this debt that we find ourselves in and how this debt operates within the Federal Reserve System and governments as a whole. We're going to react to a short video that goes into depth about this debt. Y'all hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you for coming to the show. If you feel it within your heart, support the show. Focus Daily TV. Hashtag Focus Daily TV. All right, let us begin. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors.
Hey Truth Loaders, you've asked me to look more into this topic, so here it is.
So let's read this quote. Give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws. That's the most demonic quote of the day. Brought to us by Rothschild, founder of the Rothschild banking dynasty.
Hey,
the father makes the laws.
Hey Truth Loaders, you've asked me to look more into this topic, so here it is. How the US and the UK have pulled off one of the biggest global scams ever, and it's right under our noses, or more specifically, in our purses and wallets. Money.
The Bible and Jesus specifically speaks about money changers and tax collectors. This prophecy is translated into the Federal Reserve and fiat currency.
Money. The monetary system is confusing, and maybe it's even made this way in order to hide what is really going on. What we should know that many of us don't know is that a big part of money in the UK and US lies under fractional reserve banking, known in the US as the Federal Reserve. Have you heard of the Federal Reserve? If you haven't, don't be misled by its name. It's neither federal government owned nor has reserves. Unsurprisingly, they don't want you knowing that.
That's important information. It is not an official entity of the U.S. government. However, it has full control over all governmental entities. Let's continue to learn.
It is, in fact, the central bank of the US, or in less commonly used terms, a debt machine. The Federal Reserve is in charge of lending money to the banks. The thing about this...
Why debt? Debt applies spiritually as well as physically. See, they wanted us to be spiritually in debt to the evil one, Satan himself. He is the orchestrator of this Federal Reserve System and these government corporate entities. His whole purpose was to place God's children in debt to him, to bring us down so that we will fall from the grace of the Father, and which allowed this world to fall into the position that it is in today.
This money is that it is non-existent. To explain how the money lent by the Fed to the banks works, it goes like this. The US government issues treasury bonds to the Federal Reserve. The Fed turns the bonds given...
Remember, bondsmen and bondswomen. Going a little bit in debt into these bonds. Put your discernment cap on, people. It's about to get busy.
It goes like this. The US government issues Treasury bonds to the Federal Reserve. The Fed turns the bonds given to them into Federal Reserve notes, which are then traded into the banks who transfer.
Consider those federal government bonds as those bonds women and bonds men that I speak of. They're speaking in a code, but what Focus Daily TV here is to give you is to give you the key to break down those codes. Just listen to what she's saying.
Them into paper notes, turns the bonds given to them into Federal Reserve. To explain how the money lent by the Fed to the bank.
Remember, they did this through federal registrations, the vital statistic entities, whether birth certificates, social security cards, or things of that nature. Once our parents placed us into those bonds, they were able to be traded and capitalized upon.
Banks were
basically capitalizing on the souls of men.
Existent. To explain how the money lent by the Fed to the banks works, it goes like this. The US government issues Treasury bonds to the Federal Reserve. The Fed turns the bonds given to them into Federal Reserve notes, which are then traded into the banks who transfer them into paper notes, adding money to the US money supply, money that is imaginary. But the money doesn't stop there. Say the Fed gives the bank $10 billion. The bank must reserve 10% of that, but is allowed to use the excess to fund loans to the people of the United States. Say someone borrows this $9 billion, they would then deposit it back into the banks, restarting the cycle. 10% is kept, leaving 90% of that to loan out again, with the process repeating 9 times.
That 10% is mighty peculiar. It sounds like tiding system, but that's just my thoughts.
The original loan is then created out of thin air. There will never be enough money in the world to pay back the
out of thin air. That air right there is spelled H-E-I-R, H-I-R, H-I-E-R, air. Regardless, the heirs of God's blessings, the heirs of God's grace. It is made out of that air, the bloodline of Christ.
Debt, never mind the debt accumulated by interest. The population is enslaved by the very thing it needs to survive. Debt consumes them. Debt created by the Federal Reserve. The money lent out to the people gains interest, which can cause bankruptcy, the foreclosure of homes, and other financial tragedies for the public.
And these tragedies led to them having total control. You can pay all the taxes you want to, but you never completely have control of your land, of your house, or whatever it may be. Because this system is designed to keep us broke and in debt, indebted to the evil one.
You'd think since this money is pretty much counterfeit, you'd be able to claim it was never a legitimate loan in the first place. Accusations like this are censored and beat down, thus the pyramid of power continues. New money will always be needed to cover the interest. Right now, 3% of the US money supply exists in physical money, with 97% left digitally.
So you mean to tell me it's not even a physical fiat currency? 97% of it is just digits, I's and O's. Yeah, they really pulled a number on y'all, pulled a number on the people.
The last time there was absolutely no debt was 1935, when President Andrew Jackson shut down the central bank that came before the Federal Reserve. Now even
that date wrong, but let's roll on.
Congress and the President are not allowed oversight into the Federal Reserve. It has never been audited despite a bill passing through the House of Representatives in 2012. An audit would provide imperative insight into the private corporation that has so far been gifted little to no transparency. It has ultimately created money which isn't money at all, money that is debt. Former chairman of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, called upon the US lawmakers in 2013.
That's pretty much good for today. Like I said, I like to keep these shows short and to the point. drive home that point. Debt. Forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. Until the next time, Focus Daily, y'all. Before you get out of here, hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel, #Focus Daily TV. We out.